everybody. Welcome to the Hello Road podcast. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Paul.
And today we're going to talk about Radwood again because that just happened. Radwood SoCal just happened this past weekend. I was there and you were not there.
I was not.
You were not there.
Yeah. The one
What the heck happened?
Oh,
what the heck happened? We've been talking about this for months and months. What are you gonna bring to Radwood LA? What are you gonna bring to Radwood LA? And we've been talking about this, and our listeners have been asking. Would you mind telling the audience what's going on, man? Why would you miss the one show that you love so much?
I know. Okay, so gonna have to. Well, let's see. Would that be? Yeah, that would be Thursday. So Thursday morning. So last Thursday morning, I woke up at about 4 a.m. with a very horrible stabbing pain in my lower back, and I was like, "That's not good."
Was somebody literally stabbing you?
No, nothing was really.
Okay.
I thought maybe my dog was trying to get back at me for always yelling at him, but no.
Sure. Okay.
He was not stabbing me, nor was any of my children. And the pain just got progressively worse, and so right around 6 a.m. So about 2 hours into this, I ended up going to the ER and explained my symptoms, and they took me in. And I've never been to the ER or anything like that.
Good.
So that was that was the first time for everything.
Yeah.
And the doctor came in, and I explained the symptoms to him again, and he said, "It sounds like you have a kidney stone." I said, "Oh, okay, that's fun. It hurts really bad." And he said, "Well,
could you make it stop, please?
Could you make it stop, please?" And he said, "Yeah, I can do that. I have the technology." And then the very nice nurse came in and poked a hole in my arm, and I got a nice shot of morphine. I've never, besides like drinking, I've never really done anything. Intravenously at all.
Sure.
So it was very interesting. It was a lot of fun. The pain went away, so that was great. But then they wheeled me down and did a CAT scan on me, so I felt like I was, on one of those medical TV shows.
Yes.
But then they came back and said that I had kidney stones in my driver's side kidney, and they would eventually pass, and I'd be in pain for a while. So here was a prescription for a bunch of pain medicine, and bye. We'll see you later. So that was the end of my ER ordeals. A couple hours in there. But it's just kind of been recovering. Today, so now we're at 8 days after it had started. Today was the first day that I have felt like a lot better.
Yeah.
Because Radwood was on Saturday, and it was only a few days after this whole initial thing. And it was, I was so worn out from dealing with all of the pain and everything like that. So it really sucked. I know.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was not fun. The pain was not fun, but I was on, Friday night. I was still in a decent amount of pain. I had pain medicine going through my veins, but it was actually kind of raining here, and I was outside. My wife's like, "You're crazy," because I was committed. I was going to go to the show.
Yes.
And I was getting the charade ready. I got all the stuff in it, got all the tools I needed. I put the magic stuff on the bumpers to make them look really nice, even though they don't look nice. And I was
nice enough.
Yeah. And it was raining, and I was like, all right, I'm doing this. And then, it didn't happen. I was just out of it. So that was it.
You want to, I suppose it could be kind of interesting to do Radwood sort of recovering from a morphine high. But driving down there kind of might put a damper on that if you're still kind of a little bit loopy.
Yeah, the pain medicine that I was prescribed would have made things very, very interesting to drive, because it was because the place that it was at, I think I did the map on it. It was like about 35 miles from where I'm at.
Okay.
And so it wouldn't have been too bad, and it would have been pretty early. But then I was like, you just don't want to chance it because you're on the medication, and you can get a DUI for being on that. Not that like it made me super crazy, but I, also that was in the back of my mind too. Besides the pain was just like, and the just overall fatigue, like what if I get pulled over or something like that? And I've got, so that was all the reason for it. But, I thought about it and I was like, I've just got to come back super strong next year and like just
two
do
charades. Two charades. Yes. I think that's what you got to do. We're going to give you a whole year to find another charade.
Yep.
And we'll have a little fleet.
Whole year to finish the hood.
Yes.
And then maybe get some other stuff done to it now. So,
okay.
I mean, hey, I started a new job, so hopefully I can get myself in a financial situation where I can start doing some more stuff to the charade besides like little silly things to it, but like actually make some good progress on it, because like we'll get into the Radwood stuff here, but like the one real quick takeaway I wanted to say, I was seeing a lot of the feed coming in throughout the day and then throughout the subsequent days since the show. And, there's always a couple cars there that are like really, I don't want to say dilapidated, but they're like kind of as found, or there might be somebody's daily driver that's a survivor.
And that's kind of one of the nice things about Radwood is that you can have those next to
maybe it's because I wasn't at the show and didn't get to see everything. But some of the stuff I'm seeing, I'm like, wow, the charade would have really brought down the value of that. Like there was that Mitsubishi, I guess it was a Mitsubishi Expo that was there, and I was like, that thing is so awesome, but wow, it's in great shape. And so I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Well,
but,
the thing is, when you see him in pictures, obviously it's going to make it look a little bit better than some of these might have actually been in person. So
right, true.
My car looks great in photos, and then once you get up close, it's like, oh yeah, the paint's not the best. With the Nova, the Nova twin cam. So. Yeah, but you were definitely missed. People were asking about you. They were like, "Where's Paul and his charade?" You're kind of a Radwood staple. Everybody expects to see the little Daihatsu there. There was one other Daihatsu. There was that teal Daihatsu Rocky.
Yes,
which I believe I saw that.
Of that.
Saw that at one other Radwood show. I'm not sure which one, but that was quite nice. Yeah. So it was a great show. So this Radwood happened at the Oak Canyon Park in Silverado, California, which I'd never even heard of Silverado, California before I had been here.
Neither had I.
Yeah. It was about 60 miles away from my house. So we had talked about this a little bit last week where we were talking about what car am I going to take? And I was dead set on bringing that 1990 Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo. And, as I mentioned in the last podcast, the brakes just all of a sudden kind of just decided to start working properly. But I kind of was thinking that I didn't really want to perish on my drive down there. It was a little bit rainy.
No.
It was a little bit slick. The brakes, they work, but they don't work really well. The tires are really old. I haven't driven the car more than maybe 20 or 30 miles total. Maybe that's even a stretch. So to put like another, 120 miles on the car. I'm not really that adventurous with old vehicles. It's funny because like last week we talked about how Brad drove the 944 Turbo down here from Reno to Palm Springs to my house, and had all those issues with the brakes, and he's like, no big deal. That's not me. That's he has a very nonchalant attitude about that. I'm maybe a little bit more cautious, but. Right. So in the morning, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a poll on Instagram. So I did a poll on Instagram, and this is in the YouTube video that I just posted recently. So pretty much it came down to the Nova and the 944 Turbo. They were sort of neck and neck. Nobody wanted to see the Geo because it looks terrible. And surprisingly, at least in the Instagram poll, not that many people wanted to see the Grand Prix either. So it was between the Nova Twin Cam and the 944 Turbo. So I decided, even though it kind of went slightly against the will of the people, I took the Nova instead of the 944 Turbo.
Yeah, I mean, and you made a good point about it in the video. Like, there's probably going to be another 944 Turbo there, but there's not going to be another Nova Twin Cam, or so we think.
Sure.
You never know with a Radwood, but there's way less chance to see one of those.
Sure, exactly, and I should also mention, it's probably very important that I'm actually recording this podcast from within the cabin of the 944 Turbo. because it's holidays. We got family over. My daughter's sleeping and everything inside. So I'm inside the 944 Turbo right now, and I would think that maybe at some point it's going to get a little chilly. I might have to turn on the motor, and we can hear this lovely turbo motor at some point. But it really does sound good. I love driving this car. It's awesome. I lost my train of thought. So anyway, yeah, I ended up taking the Nova twin cam because, as you mentioned, I've only seen 2 of those in my entire life. I've seen plenty of 944 turbos. So 944 Turbo is a great car. I don't know. I like those vehicles that are underappreciated. Those vehicles that you get excited because you're just surprised that somehow it made it until the year 2020. Whoever took care of it or whatever. So that's what I did. Brought the twin cam down there. I picked up my brother Brian. We headed down to the show. One thing that I totally forgot about is that car has that stupid cherry bomb exhaust on it. So it's so loud, so drony. At the end of the day, my ears were ringing just from driving it that 120 miles or so.
I forgot it has that exhaust on it,
it is. It's rough. So,
oh man.
Yeah. So really, the drive down there was fine. The car's always super reliable, super fun. Just a fun car to drive. And we get into the show and pull up, and there's already hundreds of cars there. And I thought we were getting there kind of early, and everybody was like, "Nope, we're getting there. We're kind of late." So we kind of pull in towards the back, and just super surprised that we pass another Nova. Obviously not a Nova twin cam, but there is a 1986 Chevy Nova hatchback, which it's been a very, very long time since I've seen one of those. And that car is just cool because I used to own an 86 Nova back in the day, and it was kind of neat to see. I don't know. That's the thing about Radwood. I passed like a Testarossa and a BMW Z1 and all these like super rad cars, and I'm like, oh, look at this! It's an '86 Nova that nobody should care about. That's just me, I don't know if everybody else, probably not anybody else is excited about that Nova as I was, but
I was excited when I saw it. I saw one a couple months ago. I saw one and I was like, oh hell yes! It's been forever since I've seen one of those, and I don't think I've seen one at a Radwood, so it was cool to see it even through as a picture. But but yeah. I remember I remember seeing a lot of those way back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was always it always kind of threw me off because of where the rear license plate is on it in conjunction to everything, because it's on the hatch, isn't it? And
it's kind of it's a very strangely shaped car. I always if you look at the Corolla, the AE82 Corolla, the hatchback version of the Corolla, that's also just the taillights they seem like too high or something. It's kind of a weird shape.
It reminds me of a Citroen in a way. Some kind of, if you squint and see it from 25 feet away, it's like, oh, it's a Citroen. Oh no, it's a Nova.
Well, and it's funny because back in the day, I always thought it was a little bit ugly, but seeing it now, it's just neat to be able to still see one. So I don't
right, exactly. Yeah, I saw that in the picture, and then you had it right next. You had yours right next to that one, and the front ends are almost dead on the same, weren't they? It's kind of like a mullet, business in the front and party in the back.
Sure. Yeah, I mean
the
primary differences between a base model Nova from the 80s versus the twin cam model, which was only made in 1988. The primary differences are twin cam only came in black. Has that red stripe as opposed to the white stripe, I think, on the base model. There is, on the base model, the headlight surrounds are chrome. The grille is kind of a combination of chrome and black, or kind of like gray and black. And on the twin cam, it's black.
Okay, that's how it was kind of throwing me off a little bit. I was like, they look the same, but they look different. But it's just
the colors.
It's just the colors. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the interior is slightly different. The twin cam had kind of a two-tone thing going on, and the really most of it comes down to the obviously the engine and the transmission and the suspension and the brakes. That's kind of the primary differences. The twin cam made 110 horsepower. The base model made 76. So
that's a healthy difference.
It is a big difference. So, and it's funny. The guy Francisco that owns the 86 Nova that I talked to at the show, one of the things he said that he liked about the car was that it only goes 80 miles an hour, which I remember my Nova, my old 86 Nova, and he's correct. That's as fast as you can get it to go. I remember I drove that across country. I had that 86 Nova. It had 180,000 miles, I believe. I drove it from Massachusetts to California. And I remember it was filled with pretty much everything I owned. It had a drum set, it had a guitar amp, and a bunch of clothes. And I traveled with my friend Dan on that trip ages ago. And we were going through like Flagstaff, Arizona, and some of those hills outside of Flagstaff. And I just remember, barely passing 35 miles an hour trying to get up some of those hills. So yeah, not a powerful car, carbureted. So, it's just the altitude was affecting it greatly. So kind of rough what you used to have to deal with an economy car.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Compared to nowadays, it's just,
Sure.
My Fit will just do whatever it needs to do. I mean,
sure. Yes. No problem.
I haven't driven it in San Francisco yet, but, maybe I'll have to try that soon.
Yeah, you will have to try that.
And see how it fares. So, cool. So, I mean, there was lots of cool stuff there. Like,
sure.
Your video, you showed a good few of them, but like, yeah, there's, of course, I've got questions about the Rocky, but, what were some other main standouts that you saw there?
Well, let's see. I think the one thing that I really, really liked was there was this 1990 or 1991 Chevy Camaro Z28. And it was a 5-speed. So, and I've since learned that the 5-speed manual transmission only came with the 305. You couldn't get it with a 350. So, at least that's what I'm told. But it looked awesome. It had louvers on the back. It had color matched wheels. It was in really great condition, and it was for sale. $8,500. Yes. I think the biggest downside to this vehicle was that it had like a roll bar inside it. So I don't know maybe somebody was planning on drag racing this thing or whatever, but it was really, really nice shaped car. It didn't have T-tops. That was the only other downside, I believe. So you kind of, when you get here's the thing with that car. It kind of looked like when you just stare at this vehicle, you look at this 1990 Camaro, you just immediately, you feel the back of your hair just start growing, and all of a sudden you have a mullet.
Yeah.
And I just decided that at that moment I needed a Camaro to go along with my Camaro mullet. So really, really nice looking car. I really want to buy it, but I have a lot of other cars in my fleet that need attention, so I probably shouldn't be buying anything else. But that may not stop me.
Yeah, that's true. No, I did see the pictures, and it is in great shape, and it all of its. What year was that thing? You said it was a 90.
I think it was a 90 or a 91. I can't remember 90 or exactly.
91, yeah. But
so it had an airbag, so it was like a slightly more modern third gen.
Might have been last year. Might have been like a 92.
Perhaps, yeah.
But the wheels, like, that have like the color matching on it, like, that was cool.
Yeah, It's not my first choice for a third gen Camaro, but it was really nice. I like the fact that it was a manual transmission because you really don't see that many manuals on third gen Camaros. At least what I've been looking, I have a constant search for a nice third gen Camaro Z28 on Craigslist and on Facebook Marketplace, and I rarely see 5 speeds. Not that really matters for that kind of car. That kind of car is just silly. I wouldn't expect it to be like, I'm gonna go carve some canyons in my Camaro. I love the look of it. I've always loved those. Yeah, just super, super cool. When I think of that's definitely a bucket list car for me, even though I probably will get it and be really disappointed. I still have to get one at some point.
You never know. I mean, okay, so you're buying a Camaro.
Yeah, probably
to go with your Camaro mullet.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. What were some other things I saw there?
We have to talk about the Torgenson EXP. So that was the vehicle that was discovered in that garage, tucked away. I think Jalopnik had an article about it a year or so ago. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Is this the white car that everybody that looks kind of like a Corvette? I was actually going to start talking about that because I was like, what the hell was that?
So that's okay. That's the car that, like, from the side, you're like, oh, it kind of looks like an NSX. From the front, kind of looks like a kind of a weird Corvette.
Right.
From the back, it looks like it's got like Trans Am taillights. It's mid-engine, so you think, oh, is it sort of a Lotus? But apparently, this guy, I forget his name. I forget his first name, but I could look it up on the Instagrams, but I think it's Rod Torgenson, was the designer of this car and then apparently passed away. So the person that bought it, his Instagram is Bug in Box, Bugnbox. So that's Randy Carlson. Okay. Apparently he was the one that purchased the car, and he sort of got it ready for Radwood and prepared it and got it ready to show. And did a lot of research on the history of the actual car. So that was really cool to see, because it was just like this random dude in Southern California that decided he wanted to be a car designer and just made a one-off car out of fiberglass, and then just apparently passed away, and nobody really knew about it. Apparently even his children didn't know much about it. So it's interesting that this is a car that could have been lost to history, but thanks to this guy Randy that purchased it, and I believe he purchased it and kind of got it ready for Radwood. It was really great to have it come out there and for everybody to admire it. So it's just a super, super weird vehicle. It's just, I think I like it because it confounds a lot of people. I think there was, there was no nobody around it telling people what it was. A lot of people were standing around it. It was kind of interesting to hear people talk about it and hear what they thought it was. And
that's cool.
Everybody was wrong because nobody really knows.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it and I thought it was some crazy Callaway Corvette, that some model that they produced one or two of or something. I don't know. That was my first thought, but then I was kind of doing a little bit of digging on it. I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. It's kind of cool to get to see something like that. I mean, the LA show kind of never disappoints. I mean, we had the Vector last year.
Oh God, that was
the Peterson
great.
show up, and then now this. So there's always been a car that kind of takes the cake. So
yeah. So actually, just a correction. It was Ralph Torgenson. Ralph is the guy that apparently designed this thing.
Okay.
And yeah, that was one of those cars that was super. I'm super glad that it made its way to Radwood, and people got to experience that vehicle. Just an interesting, really cool backstory behind that vehicle.
Huh. Well, that solves the mystery of really what it was for those that didn't look it up. And it was very odd, and it kind of seemed and this might just kind of take us into the venue itself, but the placement of it was kind of in the center. It seemed like. I don't know. Is that true? Yeah, where it was kind of the center of the show, I guess.
I mean, kind of. I mean, so there were, if you follow Radwood, you know that they have the Radwood royalty section, which is where people pay a little bit extra money so they can have their car displayed in a nicer fashion, kind of staged in a nice way. There was an Audi that was kind of parked up on a little hill between some trees.
Yes.
They had a bunch of DeLoreans kind of fanned out in a nice pattern. And this Torgenson EXP was parked kind of. It was kind of in the middle of the show. Yeah, it had really good placement. And then if you were a plebeian like me, we paid the standard fee to park all the way down at the other side. But that's where most of the people were, and that's where that's kind of. I mean, I like fancy cars. I'll admit it. I like fancy cars, but at the same time, a lot of the cars that I were interested in were kind of in the in the back, kind of hiding under trees.
The nosebleed section.
Yeah, the nosebleeds. That's where I saw that. I got to give a shout out to that. It was a Volkswagen Dasher, a diesel Dasher, that was completely murdered out. So this car was covered in truck liner material. Somebody had sprayed it. Apparently the paint must have sucked, so they just covered it in bed liner. Completely black, that had blacked out grille, super, super blacked out windows. I haven't seen a tint this dark ever. And it was really one of the coolest cars that I saw there. Certainly wasn't period correct, but it looked cool. It was a really neat vehicle.
Huh. Yeah, I saw a couple photos of that thing. Yeah, I'm surprised with the tint that dark. Maybe California, they'll pull you over real quick for tint that dark. But
yeah, exactly.
Hey, if it's a show car, then maybe you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So that was cool. What else did I see there? It's funny, there were several DeLoreans. I'd say there maybe 6 or 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
And I will say that Radwood is one of those shows and this is just my personal experience, where, and nothing to, I don't want to like denigrate the DeLorean owners or DeLoreans. I just kind of didn't really even pay attention to them. You know, any other car show, you'd be like, oh my gosh, a DeLorean, this is amazing. But I don't know, maybe I'm just really interested in seeing the vehicles that like you absolutely never see anymore. So when there were 6 or 7 DeLoreans there, I kind of was like, okay, that's cool. DeLoreans are neat. But let me go find that Ford Contour SVT or like the Daihatsu Rocky or whatever.
Yes. I saw the Contour SVT that somebody had posted. I think it was the Radwood official site posted up.
Yeah,
that was going to be showing up there, and I've always kind of had a slight little secret obsession with that car because it's so quirky and weird.
Yeah.
And because the regular Contours were absolute
terrible.
garbage car. I think all of them that you don't see them anymore.
Seen one. No.
Well, they all blew their transmissions up. That's
sure.
Why.
And there was the Mercury Mystique, which I used to call the Mercury Mistake back in the day. I will say, when I was looking for a car in the early 2000s, I had a list of a few. Contour SVT was on that list, and so was the Grand Prix GTP. There was a few cars that were like, American, like, okay, front wheel drive, kind of hopped up or whatever vehicles, and that Contour SVT was pretty neat. And this one here at this show, super clean.
Right,
it was such a clean car. And it's funny looking at that. You're like, is this Radwood era? Which is obviously 1980 to 1999. And then I had to sort of look at the tag and like, oh yeah, it was 1998 that this particular car was. So
yeah, right at the end of it, because I think 98 was actually the first or maybe second year that the Contour was out. And I mean, it didn't last very long. They only had it for a couple years. But the SVT was like almost immediately launched with it. So, but I mean, it was a cool concept. I mean, it's basically like a little bit bigger than a Ford Focus. I mean, a Ford Focus of its day, not like the more current one that we've seen. But yeah, it was so cool because it was so weird. But you can only get it with a 5-speed manual transmission. So
yeah,
that was already an awesome thing. And then it had the hopped up motor, and it looked kind of cool, and it kind of gave off some of those like touring car vibes to me, at least, because I remember seeing probably in the early 2000s like a Sony PlayStation game that had like touring cars on it, and one of them was a Contour, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually used the Contour in Europe for touring cars because over there it was called the Mondeo, and they love the Mondeo in Europe. So what works there doesn't work here sometimes. But
it's
that was awesome to see.
Yeah, and do you remember back in the day how this was supposed to be the world car, Ford's world car, and kind of. I will say I don't really know too much about the sales history of the Contour, but I do know that it kind of went away rather quickly.
It flopped here in the States, and I had, my sister had an ex-boyfriend who had one, and its transmission went out probably 3 times in like a year. Just going back to the shop and getting rebuilt, going back and getting rebuilt. And it was nothing he was doing to it. It was a just automatic transmission, but I guess that was the fatal flaw built into that car. So,
okay.
But I don't know. Yep. I got to go research Ford Contours now and see.
I know exactly
I was right on that one. So, but yeah, definitely cool to see. And it looks super clean from the pictures, and it's awesome to get to see something, even though that's right there at that tail end of the Radwood era, it's still something that is in that same wheelhouse as like, maybe not the exact same, but a close wheelhouse, a neighboring wheelhouse to the Nova Twin Cam, or something that's like, oh crap, I haven't seen one of these things in forever or ever, or seen one this clean. So that was awesome that that showed up there, because I don't think there's been another Contour, at least from what I've seen. And it's at least not an SVT. So
sure. I haven't come across one at a Radwood. It's possible maybe on one of the East Coast shows there was one, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What else was there? I liked the little Honda City that was there.
Oh,
the one with the had the Moto Campo scooter in the back.
Yes,
which
that
was
thing
pretty neat.
got a lot of love on the Instagram.
Yes.
There's a lot of pictures of that guy right there, and
Yeah.
that's one of those, like, I don't know if it's a bucket list car for me, but I definitely would like to spend some
Yeah.
time with one, maybe a nice
Yep.
extended weekend with one, just to experience it, because they're supposed to be, a ton of fun to drive. The City Turbo, I think it's still made, the K car 63 horsepower maximum, but I mean, it weighs nothing. And I mean, probably weighs even less once you take the scooter out of the back.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, that was a fun one. There were obviously we should talk about the I had brought a 24 Hours of Lemons car to Radwood last year. I brought Liam Neeson last year, and this year, actually, I think they brought it last year too. They brought the Homer.
Yep.
So that's basically a BMW E30 that was converted into the Homer from Simpsons fame. 24 Hours of Lemons car. So it was nice to see them and meet the drivers behind the team owner and the drivers of that car. And actually, it sounds like this car had not been on the racetrack for a while. They might be going back on the track soon, and hopefully, maybe we'll actually be racing against them. If I can get a new motor in Liam Neeson, we might actually race against the Homer at some point, which would be pretty cool.
Yes.
Pretty cool. Two iconic
awesome.
24 Hours of Lemons teams pitted it against each other. Of course, the Homer will win because we suck. But it'll be a pretty fun day if we can actually manage to race against them.
Totally. Oh wow! So what I mentioned it in the beginning of the show. There was a white Mitsubishi Expo. Did you get a chance to look at this thing?
Yes.
Okay, I've got another weird infatuation for it because, again, it's just it's very weird. So it looked good.
Yeah, it looked pretty nice. I didn't really spend too much time investigating, if it had the stock motor or anything like that. It did have the hood up, which always leads me to believe at a car show, if they have the hood up, they want you to look under the hood. So I don't know what it had under the hood. It's possible it had an engine swap and it was something different, but it was a nice looking Expo. And it's funny because it looked almost identical to the one that I saw on Facebook Marketplace a few months back that I had been following and it didn't buy. And I felt bad about it, but yeah, Mitsubishi Expo. What was there? Was that also a Dodge
Colt Vista?
Yes, there was also an Eagle Summit wagon or something. Wasn't there an Eagle Summit wagon? Yes, I believe. Yes, that was during the Eagle era. Yeah, it's kind of a neat car. It sort of reminds me of my Stanza wagon, but less unsafe.
Right. It has B pillars.
Yes, it actually has B pillars. That's very similar to that car. So yeah, that was kind of neat to see because it was a very weird one. I don't know if that got a lot of attention on Instagram. I haven't seen very many posts of that vehicle, but again, I didn't see many posts of my vehicle either, which is, I don't know what people are doing. They should be taking pictures. They're the twin cams,
right?
Guys.
Exactly. Well, I think it's because it's like with your car and maybe with the Expo, it's kind of on that same level as like the Schrade is, where it's like, well, what the hell is that? It's like, okay,
exactly. You have to be kind of weird to be into stuff like that.
That's kind of the thought I had with it.
Yeah.
Another car that I saw in the pictures that got a decent amount of love on there that I don't think I've seen one at a Radwood show, or at least the ones that I've been to. And it was just a really clean first gen Neon.
Yes. So this was the sport coupe or the sport coupe.
Coupe.
Yes.
Coupe.
So here's something that I found interesting about this particular Neon, and I don't believe this was the case for all Neons. I'm not a Neon expert, but I was just looking at this one particular one. So this had a dual overhead cam motor in it. Mm-hmm. This was, people like to talk about cars that are asymmetrical, that have asymmetrical design. You think about like the Eagle Talon that has the Mitsubishi Eclipse or the Plymouth Laser that have that little hump on one side. Or you think about the Ford Escort GT that's got the slats on the grill, but it's only on one side. Mm-hmm. This particular car fits into that category, but I had no idea until I saw it here at Radwood. So there's a little hump, very, very subtle hump on the passenger side of the hood that just kind of lifts up a little bit. And I never had noticed that about a Dodge Neon before. So this when people talk about asymmetrical designs, you got to remember to include the Neon. at least the sport coupe version of the Neon. But it was really clean. Yeah, coupe. Yes, exactly. Sorry. But it was really clean. I was quite excited to see that. But, also one of those cars that you kind of have to just be into. It's not weird. It's those were incredibly common at one point, but it's just nice to see a car that has lasted, that somebody took care of, that a car that didn't, when these cars were built, they were built to be disposable. They were built to be just driven and thrown away. And it's nice that somebody drove it and didn't throw it away.
Exactly. I think there was a photo of the interior, and that one had like the confetti seats and everything. It just
that's great.
Screamed 1995.
Yes.
And that was awesome. I'm not a Neon expert either, but I remember Grassroots Motorsports did a pretty extensive write-up of the first gen Neon and all the differences many years ago. So that's when I learned that like a two-door with a stick would have the dual overhead cam motor. Yep. Four-door with a stick has a single overhead cam motor, and there's about a 20 horsepower difference between them as well. So it was kind of interesting. But the one Neon thing that this is kind of a little quip about them. I think Dodge is solely responsible for a good portion of Americans when they go to a coffee house and order an espresso.
An espresso, yes.
Because there was a package of the Neon called the Espresso, and it was very heavily marketed. I remember that. And then from that point on, everybody called it Espresso, and every time somebody says it, I'm like, no, you're ordering a Dodge Neon. It's an espresso. If you say espresso, they're gonna bring out a Dodge Neon around the back for you.
Yes,
but that's just my thing about Dodge Neons. Besides that, and then the single overhead cam and dual overhead cam thing, I've always I'm saying this about every car now today. It sounds like, but I've always kind of had a little soft spot for them. I really like the ACR models. The idea behind them: 150 horsepower, stick shift, no frills, and it's basically almost right. I think they came with conies too. Like they were serious business back in the day. Serious
150
business.
horsepower back in the late 90s. That was pretty decent. Liam Nissan, which is the 97 Nissan 200 SX SER, which was their kind of hopped up version, that only had 140. So
right. But it was in that same group of cars that were super competitive with like some of the SCCA like showroom stock things, and then I'm sure there was a spec Neon at one point, with everybody just running these first gens around like they were kind of I don't know, what would they be considered, like a good car from yesteryear that was always turned into a race car, right? Like a midget or something like that. Exactly. But except for everybody's running front wheel drive Neons, that was kind of like the start of like that maybe budget type of stuff. That hand in hand with the Miata. So
yeah, exactly. Yep.
So that car was cool, very cool, awesome to see that.
That was neat. And what else was there? Let's see. What else was I sort of drawn to? Lots of the thing with this show is, I guess that there were maybe 500 cars there. I mean, maybe 400 or 500 cars. Lots and lots of cars. I mean, I could be wrong, but there were quite a few. And I was looking at pictures of Instagram pictures of the show afterwards, and about half the cars I don't even remember. I went row by row looking at everything, and then even still looking at the photos from the show, I'm like, oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that being there. I don't remember that being there.
Right.
And a lot of times you just don't have time. You want to talk to everybody and like see people you haven't seen in a long time, and just chat about the cars and stuff, and you just don't have enough time to see everything. I think that's the only downside to Radwood is that there's just, at least the Radwood SoCal and the Radwood LA, there's just so much to see. You just can't see everything. Or you can't, I couldn't devote enough time to all these cars that I really wanted to. So, actually, I will say one other downside. I'm always positive about Radwood, but I have one negative. The beer line was cash only. And I'm trying to think, was almost 2020, year 2020. I don't carry cash anymore. So yeah, that was like, me and my brother were walking around. We're like, why is the beer line so short? We're like, oh, it's probably cash only. And sure enough, nobody was drinking anything because nobody brought cash. So it was just kind of funny. Like, we left a lot of money on the table there because it was cash only.
Yeah. Well, you could always bring your own. I mean,
I forgot. I forgot.
It's kind of funny just sitting here talking about this, thinking about, it would be kind of a cool idea. And if I'm sure they'll be listening, if they did like a Radwood stock.
Oh, yeah, with some music.
Like a weekend, like a whole weekend with camping.
Oh, yeah.
And get like, a Nirvana cover band to come play. And, just that's pretty cool. That gives you
I'm
more.
Down with that.
That would be a lot of fun, actually, because it would give a lot more chance. Because the shows, I mean, they're an adequate number of hours, but like you said, I remember that the last LA show, it's just like there's so much to see, and so you want to talk to everybody about their cars because everybody. It's awesome to talk to all these other like-minded individuals that are just obsessed with their crap box they have or their super clean SVT Contour or whatever the hell it may be, and those are the kind of people that like we want to connect with and talk to, and make new friends and everything, of course, and it just seems like you don't have enough time to do it when it's at a show that's that big with 400 to 500 cars, so maybe something like Radwood stock or something that.
Exactly.
Patent pending.
That there was a couple other really interesting cars that I remember seeing. I'm trying to think of what is the name. This was an Aston Martin Virage.
Yes.
So it's such a weird car. So I don't know anything about this vehicle. I just remember it was parked pretty close to a Ferrari 348.
Okay.
And the Ferrari 348 was dwarfed by the size of this Virage. Like the ass end of this Virage is just gigantic. This is kind of a big car. And it's funny, standing near a 348, you're kind of like, I'm reminded that that's kind of a small car.
Yes.
But this Virage had this huge ass end, and it just dawned on me that the rear taillights of this Aston Martin Virage are Scirocco taillights. They're pulled directly from a Volkswagen Scirocco. It's just kind of funny looking at the back of this thing and just seeing the Scirocco taillights on the back of an Aston Martin. And I'm sure there's plenty of other parts that are just pulled from other vehicles, but that one was like incredibly blatant.
Huh.
So that was kind of a neat one.
It's great when there's like cross manufacturer part sharing, like the Lamborghini Diablo that had Nissan 300ZX lights on it. After they got rid of the pop-ups.
Yes.
Headlights. Yeah. What else was it? There was some other silly one, but it's funny when you see things like that. It's always usually with lights, but sometimes there's other things too, like switchgear and stuff. There's some story about the McLaren F1 having like one of the lights is from like a London bus or something. I don't know. So some silly thing like that. I'm probably wrong, most likely, but there's something I heard about that where it's like, oh,
you're right.
You're right.
It's off of a bus. It's off of a Dutch bus.
I was close.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do a little Google search and you can see a little bit more about that. But you're right. That is directly off of the back of a bus. Yeah. It is interesting to see.
I had to get into the recesses to pull that one out. So
yeah, I didn't know that. That's funny. Oh, and it's like like the Vector from what we saw at Radwood LA. Not this time, but the time before. The like the turn signal stock is just GM turn signal stock, just kind of like directly out of a Cavalier or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, we can go on and on about all the different things, but is there? You've talked about some of your favorite cars you've seen. I've kind of touched on the Mitsubishi and the teal Rocky, which is a teal Rocky.
Yes, of course.
But what did it end up winning the Radisson Show Award? Was it that? I can't even remember.
I believe it was the Torgenson EXP won Radisson Show. Yeah.
When you have a last name like Torgenson, you need to go into the automotive manufacturing business because you can name your car. This is my Torgenson.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like it's going to just, decimate everything on the Autobahn. So I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So I believe that won Radisson show. I don't know what won all the other awards. There were quite a handful of them, but overall, just, it's a Radwood show, tons of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of the time filming, so I really got to get in depth with some people's stories about their vehicles, which is always a ton of fun.
Yes.
It's kind of nice to hear the backstory of why people are interested in the particular vehicles they have. And for some people, I think a good deal of the people that were there, a lot of the stories revolved around, oh, that was the car that I wanted when I was a kid or something like that. But then there are other stories too that just, that are equally as interesting. So that's one of my favorite things to do at Radwood is just to listen to everybody's stories behind their vehicles, because you can just stare at it, but once you actually hear somebody talk about a specific thing or a specific story or where they got it from, or there's people that like that Torgenson, the story behind that is just insane.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's good times all around.
Awesome. And the venue looked like it was great too. Good choice this year from the guys choosing the venue. It looked very woodsy, and it didn't seem as muddy as I thought it was going to be, because I guess that it was initially supposed to be called Mudwood or something like that.
Well, yeah, it did rain a little bit. It was mostly clear the whole time. Being in Southern California, you're kind of like, rain? What is this? What is this wet stuff falling from the heavens? So we were a little confused initially, but so it really only rained towards the end. And there was a little bit of mud, not nearly as much as there was at the Radwood Sonoma the last time,
yes.
Which was just it was like Woodstock, 94 or whatever that year was. We talked about that last week, but
mud fights.
Yes, mud fights. It wasn't that bad. It was a really nice setting. There were some trees that the cars could be parked amongst, and it was just the only other downside was that there was no internet. There was no cell service out in the middle of nowhere where we were. So I couldn't post anything to Instagram. I kind of wanted to constantly wanted to post. I want to post this cool photo of this vehicle, but I couldn't do it. I had to wait until. That's why a lot of the posts didn't show up until later in the day, because nobody had cell service.
I was wondering, because I kind of figured it out a little bit through the day. I was like, there's been no pictures of it. I'm like, oh man, I hope everything's okay. And then later on in the day, you text. You sent me a text saying that you were out and there was no cell service, and I was like, oh, well, that confirms my thing. And then all of a sudden, all of the posts start coming through as everybody must have been leaving the show and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool, that works. So, but well, very cool. I'm very sad I missed it. It would have been great to have been out there and gone around and checked everything out and talked to some of the fine folks out there that brought their rad vehicles to check out. I'll just have to go big or go home next year. Make up for it this year.
Exactly. We'll set up a Daihatsu dealership. We'll get we'll have 3 Daihatsus out there. We'll get some period correct Daihatsu salesman t-shirts or salesman shirts and ties and stuff like that.
Okay. That would be good. I've thought about doing something like that already with it, but I don't know. You'd have to make everything, because it's impossible to find anything. I was lucky I found that jacket a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So that was a rare bird right there. So, very cool. So they've already announced they're doing the next show is Austin in January. So Austin's a wonderful city. I've been there just once, but it was great.
It's nice.
It would be a fun trip to go out there. That maybe that can be my redeeming thing, is trying to see if I can get the charade all the way to Austin. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
That would be great. I believe it must be February, because there's a reason why I couldn't go. Is it January? I'm not sure.
No, it's February. It's February.
Okay.
It's on Leap Day this year. I guess February 29th.
Yeah.
So
my sister and her husband and their daughter are flying in from Australia to hang out with us in California, so that I won't be able to really say leave and go to Austin for that. I'm like, hey, thanks for coming to America. I'm gonna go do this car show. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I won't be able to go to Austin.
It's cool. I'll drive solo out there. I think this is a great idea. I think I'm working on my redemption right now. I've just got to paint the hood and then drive all the way to Austin.
Yes. Don't worry about that hood. Keep the gold hood on it. You spent way too much time on this damn hood.
But no, very, very cool. So, again, sad I couldn't make it, but I'm glad you made it. And I'm glad you had that awesome video that showcased a few people's cars and their stories. So cool stuff.
Fun to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was a good show and I'm looking forward to the next one. Got back here, car ran great. The Nova ran great. And now I've been driving the 944 Turbo over the last few days. I don't know. I got a good fill of Nova twin cam driving. So I wanted to drive the 944 Turbo around for a little bit. Today was a kind of an interesting day with the 944 Turbo. So
why is that?
So I was driving it to work this morning and, I was on the freeway and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's losing power. It's kind of like stumbling a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is great. I've had the car for like a week. What's going on? And I remember when Brad had dropped it off, he had said that there's the hose the intercooler hose is like this hard pipe. One of the hose clamps kept slipping off. So that popped off and it basically it's not able to build any boost, or it builds a little bit and then it kind of like all just escapes out of the hose underneath the hose clamp. So I had that problem. I pulled over. I didn't have any tools, so I found a dime in the car and I was using the dime to tighten the hose clamp a little bit and I thought I got it good to go. Started driving again, started building boosts, and all of a sudden I could hear the hose pop off again. I'm like, damn. So I drove a little bit further and then I tried to tighten it again. And then same thing, drive it and I can hear the hose pop off again. So then I drive myself to a Harbor Freight Tools and I buy a little cheap set of tools. So because when you own an old Porsche, you probably should have tools in the car. So I bought a set of, really all I needed was a 10 millimeter, like everything. So I got that and I tightened it really tight and the hose clamp just kept sliding off. So, and I got it what I thought was tight enough and I drove on the freeway and I got going for like another couple miles and then the thing fell off again. So pulled over once again and then I pretty much realized that hard pipe, that intercooler pipe is maybe just like not quite long enough, like by like, I don't know, a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch or something. So I basically loosened all of the connections. And mind you, I'm not a good mechanic and I barely understand what half of these hoses do. So I loosened all these connections to see if I could like find a happy medium where it connected on all sides equally, where the hose clamp wouldn't slide off. And that pretty much did the trick. And I got it tightened down pretty good. But I'm curious, like, maybe the motor mounts are kind of going and the engine's kind of bouncing around a little bit more
a bit.
Maybe that's what's going on. But also, it has like really nice, high quality silicone fittings and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that it just kept popping off. So, and it
could be the clamp.
Well, it could be the clamp too. The clamp it's like a nice quality clamp. It just doesn't have a whole lot to grip onto.
Yeah,
I got it. It just seems like the pipe is just ever so slightly too short. So I feel like it's holding now. It held the whole way home, and I was driving like stupid because it's kind of what you do with this car. It's kind of hard not to. Like I have to keep holding myself back. I'm like, don't do anything dumb. Don't do anything dumb. And like the other day on the way to work, I like kind of got it sideways coming off of the off ramp on the freeway.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. There was nobody around.
It's socially acceptable.
There was nobody around, and as Brad mentioned to me on Instagram, I was like, yeah, those tires you have on that car, they kind of like heat, and I didn't, they're R compounds, so they're really kind of race tires. So I was like coming off the, just giving it just a little tiny bit of gas, and like all of a sudden I'm driving sideways down the street towards work. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is this car is hilarious. This car is hilariously fun. It's too fast. It builds up. Once it starts building boost, it's just like there's no stopping it. It's kind of hard to like, I got to let off now. Nope, can't. Too much fun. It's a really, really fun car. I am fully expecting it to explode on me pretty soon because that's just what cars do under my ownership. I did a video about this before. This car has over 400,000 miles on it. It's bound to have something break catastrophically soon.
I'm no mechanic either, but I have a bit of background working in like the heavy duty industry with like the big diesel trucks, and that was kind of a common thing that would happen. And one of the solutions, that at least on that side of the industry, is, and I don't know exactly what that clamp looks like, but there's a real heavy duty type of clamp you can get called a constant torque clamp. And I'm sure they make it for that size. And I think what's going on is because the engine is rocking back and forth when you're giving it gas, but it could be slipping off, or it could be that the clamp is just, you need to replace those clamps every so often, because they'll just start, even though you tighten it down, as you move it, it's just going to pull itself back out, the little worm drive clamps. So these constant torque clamps, they shouldn't do that. And
interesting.
I'm pretty sure they're readily available anywhere. And again, I am no mechanic, and I'm probably giving bad advice, but I know that when the big trucks had issues with their intercooler pipes popping off, it was just, it needs new clamps, and they were fine.
Interesting. Well, we should definitely preface this with don't listen to our podcast for mechanical advice. However, you might find a tidbit here and there that is at least partially accurate.
Paul thinks everything is a giant truck or a Daihatsu.
Exactly.
That's pretty much how it works.
The only two vehicles that exist.
Yes, a giant Peterbilt or a tiny little Daihatsu.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Cool. Well, that was fun to talk about Radwood. I always have a ton of fun there. And this was a good one. This was really neat. I'm glad that it didn't pour on us, and I'm glad that I took the Nova Twin Cam. I will say that I can't take the Twin Cam next time. I'm gonna have to come up with something different.
Yeah.
People. It's funny, when we were there, a lot of people wanted to see the Grand Prix, the Turbo Grand Prix, which I was a little surprised about. I would think that probably there hasn't been a Turbo Grand Prix at a Radwood, so maybe if I can make the next one, that might be the first one. We'll see.
There might have been some that have tried to make it to the Radwood.
Most of them don't run, so there's that.
Right. Well,
nice.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for filling me in on what I missed. While I was at home drinking cranberry juice and taking pain medicine.
Ouch. Yep.
But it is what it is, and I'm not a 23-year-old kid anymore that just says, screw it, I'm just going to go anyways. I got to start making sure I make the right choices.
Sure. Yep.
Even though I was just, gritting my teeth the whole time, wishing I could have been there, but I knew it was for the best. So
yeah, that's good. You made a responsible choice. I need to start doing that, because I'm currently on Craigslist looking to buy another vehicle, even though I shouldn't. Everything indicates that I should not be buying another vehicle, but I probably will.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine.
You've made room. You've made room.
It's true.
So
it's true.
There is more room.
Yes, and it will be a cheap kind of garbage car, so it's not like I'm wasting a ton of money on something fancy. So
that
doesn't happen.
Right.
Well, all right. On that note, I think we should talk about the social medias. Where can everybody find you on the internets?
You can find me at Paul's Finest Hour on Instagram and on Twitter, and that's about it.
All right. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Ethan Tufts, youtube.com/Hello Road. Got that Radwood video that just went up a few days ago, and still haven't gotten around to finishing my Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross video, but I'm almost done with it. So again, I know everybody's clamoring to find more content about this Mitsubishi SUV. So that's coming soon. I guess that's it.
Awesome. Well, that'll do it. So thank you, everyone. Have yourselves a good morning, evening, or afternoon, whenever you're listening to this.
Yes. Take care, everybody.